Hey, and we are live. Welcome, everyone. Jump on the messaging live chat. Say hi if you haven't done that already. Thanks for joining us. Looks like we're starting with a nice small little group, but as we spread the word, it'd be really fun to see Lansing Campsite connect with several dozen people every Wednesday morning. As you know, we're trying to do lots of things, but this is just one more. In the Wisconsin Dells last year, how many were there? Oh, only 7. Okay. But those who were there know that at club every night, took a slightly different angle and said, Campsite always throws in a Bible verse at the end of a Campsite meeting. We talk about something from the Bible because we think it's true. And it's a great lessons in there for our lives. And in the Dells, because we had a little more time, instead of just one verse, like if you're on Monday night, we use Ephesians 5, 15 and 16, 2 verses that say, in essence, make the most of every opportunity. And that's great advice and very relevant to our coronavirus world today as we're all quarantined in. But in the Dells, we said, hey, we have a little bit more time in club every night. Let's do a whole story. So we did that each night. And that's basically what we'll try to do here with Trent Talks on Wednesday mornings at noon. And then you can go into your club Zoom meetings right afterwards and hang out together and chat a little bit more about it. Today I'm going back to actually the first night in the Dells. We won't repeat any of the other ones, but we're going to stay in one book in the Bible called John. John was one of the disciples of Jesus, and he wrote the book of John. And he even said at the end of it, Jesus said a lot of other things that we didn't write in this book. But I've written you these things so you might believe that he really is Jesus, the Son of God. So great chance to look at some stories and maybe learn a little bit more about who Jesus was, what he did, what he said, and why he said and did what he did. And we can see what we can learn from it. So the story today comes from John chapter 2, and it is the story of Jesus turning water into wine. That's one people know about, even if they don't know much in the Bible. And it starts out by saying this. The next day, there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. So disciples, 12 guys, Jesus and the 12 guys got to go to a wedding party. Pretty cool. The wine supply, though, ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him, they have no more wine. Dear woman, that's not our problem, Jesus replied. My time has yet not come. My time has not yet come. Okay, first of all, especially being stuck home in quarantine, this is not an example of if your mother asks you to do something, you say, dear woman, that's not my problem. My time has not yet come. That's not the point here, okay, just to be clear. She says, clear the table, do the dishes, clean your room, wash the dog, do what you're supposed to do, okay? But this is interesting, and from it, just 3 little quick points you can go on and talk about his club. The first one I make from this story, I think, is pretty clear. It says, sometimes we take wait for an answer. Sometimes we take wait for an answer. We're not really sure why Mary came to Jesus about the wine problem here. She was probably helping as part of the hospitality crew. It's embarrassing to run out of wine. Their celebrations, their receptions went for several days, we think. And as the wine ran out, she's kind of embarrassed for the bride and groom trying to get something done. She knows Jesus has 12 guys there. They can run down to quality there and pick something up probably. But he answers, it's not my time. So there's sometimes I really think we can learn from this that it's just not the right time. And so something you can write down if you take any notes or staff talk about this later. Don't ask God for help if you don't want his answer. I think there's truly times I told someone this just this week, putting an offer in a house. They go, I really want this one. I think it's really the right one. I'm really praying about it. So that's great. And if you're praying about it, recognize, especially since you're so excited about it, if it's not the right one, God's going to have to do something to make sure you don't get it. And I've heard many stories of how really some crazy things happen to keep a deal going through, whether it's a house, a car, a girlfriend, a prom date, whatever it is we pray and ask God for help, just as Mary did here, sometimes we wait for an answer. And we can trust that God will show up and do the right thing at the right time. Well, let's see what happens. The story goes on. Second point, this how quick this is going to be. Verse 5 says, but Mary told the servants, do whatever he tells you. So if there's one key sentence in this story, and I love to look at stories this way, this is it. Do whatever he tells you. Who do you trust that much in your life that you say, I do whatever they say? Now, obviously, your campus life director, maybe a parent, but do whatever they say. Jesus had never done any crazy, miraculous kind of stuff up to this point in his life. He had just started running around with the disciples and teaching and doing some things. Mary probably knew some things because she was his mom, but I don't think she was expecting him to do a miracle here. She just wanted them to go pick up some wine. So she tells the servants, do whatever he tells you. Do means sometimes we have to take some action. We're asked to do some things. James in the Bible, another book, says in chapter 1, verse 22, don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you're only fooling yourselves. And how many people do we know, including us sometimes maybe, we know we shouldn't do that, but we do it anyway. Or we know we should do it, and we just don't do it. The point is, while you wait for an answer, so here's the second point, obey while you wait. You don't just say, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to just sit here. We're sitting here a lot during this quarantine. But as you ask God for help with some part of your life, there are times when you obey while you wait. She said, go do whatever he says. We take action, we do it. Whatever. Sometimes it's crazy. And we're going to see what he asked in a second. And it is a little crazy. But she's told them to be ready to do whatever. He is, to do whatever he tells you. He is Jesus. He is Lord. And we know in this book called the Bible, a lot of great instructions for our lives. We know some things to do. So go do what is right while you wait. I would challenge you this month, even watching the discussion as we got started, people talking about sleeping in, not maybe even getting up and not accomplishing anything. How about read the Gospel of John, one chapter a day for the next 21 days? It's about how long you're out of school, at least. You'd read the entire book of John in 21 days, just one chapter per day. It takes you about 5 minutes a day. And then as we come across these stories in the future weeks, you would kind of know what's going on. So wait for an answer. Obey while you wait. Trust that God really does know what's best. His directions aren't dumb. They're smart. They work. They're not too hard. You can do them. So do what God asks you to do. You'll never be sorry. That's what Mary told the disciples, or told the servants. Okay, this is what happens. Let's finish the story. Just 5 more verses. Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 or 30 gallons. Big jars, 20 gallons. Jesus told the servants, fill the jars with water. When the jars had been filled, he said, now dip some out and take it to the master of ceremonies. So the servants followed his instructions. When the master of ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, he called the bridegroom over. A host always serves the best wine first, he said. Then when everybody has a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine. But you have kept the best until now. Wow. You imagine the servant, they were told to do whatever Jesus said. So Jesus says, go fill these huge jars with water. They went and did it. Bring these jars back. He said, now dip some out and give it to the master of ceremonies. Nobody wanted that job. They're not going to give the master of ceremonies a glass of quote unquote wine that's really water. But that's probably the servant with the least seniority, right? A high school student on co-op, maybe. He gets stuck with the job. He dips the glass out there, takes it to the MC. The MC goes, whoa, this is delicious. And even enough different that it actually goes to the groom and says, this is awesome. You kept the best wine until last. So sometimes we wait for an answer, then obey while we wait. Last point. the results are worth the wait. God can do, Ephesians 3:20 says this in the Bible, immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine. Ask, imagine, or dream, another translation says. What could God do even in this crazy time in quarantine with your life, but let alone in the future? If you would really obey him and be everything he wants you to be and trust that the results will surprise even you. There are many times, I think, in our lives, especially those of us been around a while. I drew this beard on my sabbatical. It's white. It's crazy. But we've experienced, we really didn't think that would happen. And the results were worth the wait. This surprises us in a very great way. The story ends, one last verse, it says, after the wedding, he went to Capernaum for a few days. I'm sorry, verse 11. This miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Interesting, very first miracle recorded. It's kind of why I wanted to start with this story, but also because the results were worth the wait, and it made his disciples that knew he was an amazing person, and he taught some incredible things. They've been hanging out with him going, this guy is different. But to do this kind of literal miracle truly blew him away. And that really inspired them to believe that he indeed was Jesus, the Son of God. And I know a lot of times when we come across some miracles in the Bible, people will say, it's just really hard to believe. So I'll end with this thought. If John was one of the disciples, and he was, and he wrote this book, and he says at the end, I've written all these stories. There's many, many more, but I've written these so that you will believe that Jesus is who he said he was. He was God. If these things had not happened, he would have literally been laughed off the face of the earth. He's writing this book just a few years after Jesus had walked the earth. Many people were alive. Literally, people at this wedding were alive. And they would have called him a liar if it hadn't happened. So the fact that people saw it, were amazed by it, and then believed in Jesus because of it is a great lesson for us, that much of what's in the Bible is to remind us that God is God, and he can handle any situation we face, including a little virus. And so as we continue in these tricky little weeks, unprecedented, never been here before, let's always leave a little space to consider how God does fit into your life. Realize that sometimes he says wait, that you should obey while you wait, and the results really are worth the wait. So thanks for joining us today. It's been fun. We'll be here noon every Wednesday as long as this happens. Each of you who are in a Campus Life Club, check out your social media, and it will direct you to a Zoom call where you can keep talking about this story. Again, thanks for joining us. So we'll catch you next time.